Carly, and today I am filming a different type of video, as you can probably tell from like the little intro I made. Oh, also, sorry if you hear something like banging in the background or hissing. My cats stole a makeup brush from me, so that's fun. And they're arguing over it. What we're talking about today is something that has made me frustrated for a while now. And at first, so we're talking about WJSN and the fact that everyone, and when I say everyone, I mainly mean like Western fans who don't pay attention to WJSN. Those are the types of people I'm talking about. The types of people who so just disclaimer, I am going to be talking about disbandments. I am going to be, in an essence, comparing groups, but really not to bring down anyone else, just to like say like, hey, if you say this person's successful, WJSN has done this, so why aren't they successful? You know, that sort of thing. So just know there will be a little bit of that. I'm gonna try and keep it to a minimum because I really don't like doing that sort of stuff. But anyway, so we're gonna be talking about WJSN. You could consider this a little history lesson of WJSN if you want, but really it's just gonna be my defense of WJSN and my attempt to make everyone stop labeling them as a failure of a group. Because truly, and I don't know what I'm gonna title this video yet, but I truly believe that WJSN is what you should hope every post-produced group can become. Because I've seen, so lately it's come up with Goo Goo Dolls disbandment, about how they're worried about other groups like Weki Meki and WJSN. It's coming up a lot now with IZ*ONE's looming disbandment. People talk about, oh my god, I hope the IZ*ONE girls can be better off. Like, I hope the IZ*ONE girls don't suffer as much as like the IOI girls, because like this group disbanded, this group disbanded. I think I put a tweet up there, Weki Meki and WJSN are barely noticed, and that's really what made me mad. So I also put up like my response to everyone's in the intro, everyone's just insistence that WJSN is a failure when they aren't. And for a post-produced group, the reality is WJSN's level of success is what you should hope for everyone, really. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and we're going to get into that. But first, who is WJSN? Because people who tend to think they're a failure, obviously, I'm sorry, I'm like sweating. It's so hot in my house and I'm wearing a sweater for some reason. People who seem to think they're a failure obviously like don't know who they are. They're a 13-member girl group from Starship Entertainment and YUA. If I'm saying that wrong, let me know. YUA Entertainment. So YUA is the same entertainment agency that Everglow and Woods are under, for any sort of, for context. So they're not like fully a Starship group. Lots of times people think they're fully a Starship group, but they are kind of this joint venture between the two agencies. But in reality, Starship largely does manage the group in Korea. YUA largely manages them in China. Who are the members? So the original lineup, and we're just talking about the original lineup. The original lineup was EXI, Sola, Bona, Subin, Luda, Dawon, Unso, Yoram, and Dayoung. So those are the Starship trainees that were contributed. So those are the trainees from Starship. There were also 3 Chinese members who were trainees at YUA. So those would be, and I am going to pronounce the Chinese members' names based off of the Korean pronunciation, just because I feel like that's the most realistic way for me to say it. Like, yes, I could sit here and pronounce it in my attempt at pronouncing it phonetically, but even then those aren't right. And I know I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm just doing the Korean pronunciation. So the Chinese trainees that were contributed by YUA were Songso, Sonyi, and Miki. Those are the 3 Chinese members. So they debuted as a 12-member group with kind of the zodiac, cosmic sort of concept, which they still do to this day. So they debuted on February 25th, 2016. This video should be up on their debut day. I'm hoping, if I was good and I was like ahead of everything, this should be going up on February 25th. So they debuted on February 25th, 2016 with the EP, Would You Like? And they promoted 2 different title tracks. So the first one was Mo Mo Mo, which is kind of a girly, cutesy concept. And the second song they promoted off the album was Catch Me, which showed more of like their girl crush kind of concept. That's the basics of who WJSN are. Now, you might be sitting there and going, but you said they're like a post-produced group. And some people may argue with me about being post-produced, but really, are they pre-produced a little bit? But the group debuted at the same time as IOI, roughly. And Yeonjung joined. She was announced to be joining WJSN within like 4 months of debut, if even that. So I largely consider them a produced group, okay? That's just the way it's gonna be. So which member of IOI joined WJSN? It was Yeonjung. So Yeonjung joined the group officially in August of 2016 for their second album with the title track Secret. But she was really announced as the 13th member in April of 2016. So, who is Yeonjung? Yeonjung was a Starship trainee who had initially tried out to be in WJSN, but she was young and she had the same, I don't know if it's true, but like she had the same zodiac sign as one of the other members. So she just like didn't fit into the concept at the time. Yeonjung auditioned for Produce. She ended up being relatively popular, but also she was not well liked either. So she was popular but not well liked at the same time. She ended up ranking 11th in Produce 101 and she made it into IOI.
We are the Dream Girls, Dream Girls. 꿈을 향해 달려가 Dream Girls. 시간은 충분해, 조급해 하지 마. Trust yourself, 넌 포기하여 Dream Girls, Dream Girls. 조금만 더 힘을 내 Dream Girls.
After IOI, she was just gonna leave Starship because Starship had just debuted a new girl group. It would probably be 4 or 5 years before they debut another one. So she was gonna be kind of in the same situation as Somi ended up being in, where JYP didn't end up debuting a new girl group for a while. So it's like, what do you do? So she was gonna leave Starship. And WJSN and Starship were like, she's too good. The WJSN members were like, we like her, she's friends, we're cool, we want her to be in our group. So Yeonjung ended up joining the group with relatively no pushback or friction, which is amazing. There's a couple of factors, at least to me, that kind of make Yeonjung's transition to WJSN easier than maybe some of the other members. And those are the facts that she placed last. She was last place. She was the last member to be added. While she was popular, she wasn't as popular as, say, Somi, who got first, or Chungha, who got fourth. So she wasn't crazy popular. But also, the fans she did have in IOI also felt like she was largely ignored. She wasn't showcased to the degree that she should be. So when she joined WJSN, she joined as main vocalist, and in their comeback song Secret, she did get a lot of lines. Of course, because to me that makes sense, because you're introducing this new person to your group And on top of that, it's a person who already has a lot of public recognition. So of course you want to kind of push them to the front and be like, hey, she's here. But there are also a couple of other things that Starship has done over the years that has made WJSN less of a post-produced group. Like when people look at WJSN, they don't go, oh, that's a post-IOI group. What makes WJSN successful? Here's a couple of things. So this is where I'm gonna just be telling you guys facts and things that showcase how successful WJSN really is. If you hear that noise, I do apologize. My cats. So first off, this growth pattern should be inspirational to other post-produced groups, fans, that they should be striving for what WJSN has. So we're gonna talk about their physical sales first. So I took the liberty of making a nice little graph showcasing the sales for every album. And as you can see, WJSN has really just been on an upward trajectory for their physical sales. They've had a couple of releases that were like pretty close, but they've never had a long period of stagnation or a dip. And when the 3 Chinese members, you might be thinking, WJSN is only 10 members. Who are these other 3? The Chinese members, in 2018, they went to go promote in China, and they haven't been back since for a group comeback. So really, after Dream Your Dream, the China line hasn't been in the albums, and the China line, especially Songso, was fairly popular. So you would think that maybe that would hurt their popularity. They also do get a lot of sales from China in particular. So you would think with the Chinese members not being in the comeback after Dream Your Dream. So what was the one after Dream Your Dream? So you would think the sales for WJ Please would have dipped down a little bit because the Chinese members weren't there. What would entice Chinese fans to be buying their album? But that didn't happen. It kept growing, and they have consistently continued growing. In fact, they're one of the few, I'll put up the graphic here too, they're one of the few girl groups to sell over 100,000 copies with one album. So, and they're on that list with like IZ*ONE, Twice, Red Velvet, like top girl groups, and you're sitting there telling me that WJSN are barely noticed. Which we'll get to that later. We'll get there. So on top of that, they've also had really consistent growth with their digitals. So Butterfly debuted at number 40 on the Melon chart, which is good, and it topped other charts, of course. But more impressive than that, their song As You Wish, it was released in November of 2019. Has become Korea's new New Year's song. So for the past 2 years, that song has climbed to number 1 on the charts. Every day on every year on New Year's Eve, it is the new New Year's song. WJSN, as a result, is known in the general public's mind because they're this girl group that has this amazing song. They perform well digitally. They perform better than a lot of post-IOI individuals. The only people they perform behind in terms of digitals is Chungha, really. I mean, sometimes Somi can perform better than them on the charts, but at the same time, Somi hasn't really released all that much, so she's hard to study. They perform about the same as Somi. Hi guys, just me in editing popping in because I realized I got very frustrated while I was filming that video for a lot of reasons. I just get annoyed when I'm talking about the issues, and then my cats were running amok. But anyway, I forgot to mention WJSN also got their first win in 2018 with Save Me, Save You.
부탁해 너에게 들을래 알고 싶어 그래 숨기려 하지마 너의 편이 돼줄게 목소리 따라 너의 호흡을 따라 나타내줘 어떤 아픔 어떤 슬픔.
And since 2018, they have been consistently winning on music shows as well. So yes, that's also something I forgot to mention when, I don't know why I forgot to mention it, but they got their first win a while ago and they continue to win on music shows, which also shows that they must chart well and sell well if they're able to win on music shows. Okay, I will get back to the video now. So really, I don't know why everyone thinks they're a failure when they are performing super well on the charts and super impressively physically as well. So then, something that I think was really smart of Starship to do is they did not push Yeonjung as the face of the group for very long. She was the face of the group during IOI promotions when they were promoting at the same time as IOI. But after that, they kind of went, okay, we need to start pushing other members. They don't want a situation where WJSN just becomes Yeonjung and friends like so many other post-IOI groups did. WJSN has always they have a lot of members, and what I think is impressive is when people first hear the name WJSN, which member pops up in their mind right away. For a lot of people, it's Songso. For a lot of people, it's Bona. For a lot of people, it's Yoram, which shows that people don't typically think of WJSN as a post-IOI group because they don't typically think of the IOI member first. And is what helps WJSN and what has helped them become really stable is that every member, for the most part, has their own thing that they do and something that they're recognized for. So let's go into 2020. WJSN only had one group comeback with Neverland in June with the title track Butterfly. They had a lot of solo and unit activities that really helped cement each of the members individually. So basically, I'm just gonna go through each member and tell you what they did, some of their solo activities this year. So Exy, she appeared on King of Masked Singer. She worked on music for Gravity's newest album. I think I'll include it. She wrote the lyrics for their title track.
Get out my way, I don't care what you got. 아무도 날 막을 수 없어, my turn.
So Exy and a lot of the WJSN girls have often composed their own music for their own albums, but this was the first time that they had provided music to another group at such a level. This wasn't a side track on the album. Exy helped write the lyrics for Gravity's title track, which is awesome. Good job. Sola had a series on YouTube called Sola Do It.
이거가 중요합니다. 이야? 이거 어려웠잖아요, 쌤 저희 짤 때.
So she appeared, I think there were 3 or 4 episodes where she did a dance the one time, she did a cover, she did a couple of other things. So it was on One The K's channel as well. Bona had a supporting role in the drama Homemade Love Story.
라온아, 너 유학 갈래? 누나가 보내줄게. 내년 목표로 하려면 지금부터 준비해야 될 것 같은데 뭐부터 해야 되지?
And she also won Best New Actress at the 2020 KBS Drama Awards and Best Idol Actress at the 2021 Korea First Brand Awards. Subin debuted in the Chakomi subunit, as did Luda. Dawon was confirmed to be starring in the upcoming movie musical K-School, which is exciting. Eunso starred in the web drama Dalgona.
내 이름은 송민아.
알았어요.
고등학교 2학년의
나 버스 타야
평범한
돼.
학생이다.
아,
어른들은 우리가 무엇이든 될 수 있는 때라고들 말하지만
Yoram debuted in the Chocomi subunit as well. Dayoung also debuted in the Chocomi subunit, and she also hosted a radio show with Naver Now. Yeonjung took part in OSTs, and she was also a contestant on Lotto Singer.
그 수많았던 추억 속에서
Sunyi was a member of Rocket Girls, which is the group that was formed on like the Chinese version of Produce 101. So she completed her activities as part of the Rocket Girls, and she had her solo debut in China.
我只是我期待这一刻，定格这一刻，眼泪就像珍珠滑落，我也不会怀疑真实自我。梦有多难得，就有多值得。皇冠你别给我，我要亲自戴上荣耀。Come on。
Miki also completed her activities with Rocket Girls, sing debut in China. And Songso has always been active in China. She was always acting, and she continued to act through 2020. So as you can see, every member did something. Like, sure, for a couple of the members, they did just the subunit, but it was like really impressive. So what I think Starship did right in terms of producing WJSN and continuing after IOI is what I think every company should look at and go, okay, so yeah, maybe for the first couple of comebacks, you push the post-produce member because obviously they're going to be the one that most people know about, right? But Starship didn't push Yeonjung so much that she overshadowed everyone else. She wasn't so prominent that it forced the other members into the background, right? So while they were showcasing Yeonjung, they were still showcasing every member. Like, they didn't go on variety shows with just Yeonjung. They went on variety shows as a group, so you can show the group dynamic. So they didn't make Yeonjung the most important member. They didn't create a WJSN that would fall apart if Yeonjung wasn't there, right? Which I think is super important. They also showed that the group had really good chemistry. They allowed them to go on variety shows, and they had them have their own variety shows. So like, they gave them opportunities to show the chemistry between the group. They gave them opportunities to show that there was no real tension with Yeonjung joining. Yeonjung wasn't joining, and everyone was kind of like, oh my god, I don't know about this, right? Yeonjung joined, and you immediately saw the chemistry between all 13 members, which is really important because that doesn't let the IOI or the produce member become isolated. It integrates the produce member into the group as a member of the group, which I think is super important, and I think that's what a lot of post-IOI groups in particular didn't do, was integrate all the members together. When the subunit was debuted, they didn't force Yeonjung into it. You know, the subunit debuted with kind of a concept, the short members of the group, you know? It debuted with a unique concept. All the members are largely like considered to be some of the more underutilized members of the group, and it allowed them to then showcase what they can do, which I think is like really awesome. They also didn't debut a subunit immediately in the same way that maybe Goo Goo Dawn did or Pristin. Pristin is a whole other issue though. But you know, they didn't debut a subunit right away to exploit the post-produce popularity. So yeah, Starship could have gone, okay, it's 2017, IOI is disbanded. We're going to debut a subunit with Yeonjung right away. But they didn't. They really focused on developing that group dynamic and that group reputation instead of just building Yeonjung's reputation, which I think is good. They are for the most part given consistent comebacks, which allows them to slowly start to build recognizability and naturally grow a large fan base and popularity with the general public. Here's my thing. A lot of people will go, oh, well, this is because WJSN already had time to establish themselves before Yeonjung joined. They debuted in February, and by April, they had already announced that an IOI member was going to join the next comeback. So really, they had one album without an IOI member, which really isn't enough time to cement yourself without an IOI member. Like, I don't think people realize when they say that how quickly Yeonjung joined WJSN. Like, she joined right away. So although they were already established and they did have fans for just the 12 of them, Yeonjung joined right away. She joined, I think, soon enough that there was really no established idea of what WJSN was yet, right? I think it's a lot more with the way they promoted all 13 members together, more so than WJSN was already an established group. Because really, yeah, they did well, but they weren't doing fantastic. I think their debut, if I think back to the chart, their debut album, I think, sold like 13,000 copies maybe. Yeah, so Would You Like sold 13,000 copies. So when people say they were already successful without Yeonjung, I think they were okay before Yeonjung joined, but they certainly weren't selling 20,000 copies, right? So I just think that the natural progression out of IOI into WJSN was just really well done by Starship. However, this is not going to be a complete Starship. You did amazing with the transition from IOI to WJSN. So great. No, this is also going to be a Starship, I hate you, here's what I want you to fix. So my issues with Starship. The current group promotion, they had one comeback as a group last year, which in my opinion is not enough. Also, they don't take the members' safety seriously of WJSN. Like just a month ago or so, there was an issue with a chat box, an AI chat box that would sexually harass people. So this AI chat box had the same name as Luda. It was called Lee Luda. And Luda, like WJSN's Luda, her name was getting dragged through the mud and wrongly associated with this chat box. And Starship did nothing. In the same way, when Luda was touched inappropriately by a male backup dancer, Starship made no statement about it. They were like, whatever, we'll just forget about it. Like, even just a simple statement of, oh, it was an accident, we'll try and prevent this from happening in the future, would be better than what Starship did. Another issue for me is the uncertainty with the Chinese members, because they haven't been around now for like 3 years. Starship and Yua have never made statements about whether the Chinese members will be returning or what's going on or if they're a part of WJSN. No one knows. And for me, I would rather Starship come out and make a statement. Either we have come to an agreement and the Chinese members will no longer be promoting with WJSN, or they are still considered to be active members. I would prefer to have that statement be made. Neither one of the companies is making that statement. So there's just a lot of up in the air where it's like, okay, well, they haven't been around for 3 years, going on 3 years, but they haven't really left. And I know for like a while, 2 of the members were promoting in Rocket Girl, so maybe you couldn't make a statement then. But I would have thought that once Rocket Girl's contract ended, Starship would have made a statement about future plans for the Chinese members. And that is not what happened, and that does not continue to happen. And it really is just frustrating because Ujongs like me have to tell non-fans, like, okay, they just haven't been in the group for 3 years, but as far as we know, as far as anyone's told us, they're still active members of the group. So that's another issue, like Starship fixed that. Another issue is the big issue with people thinking WJSN is unpopular, and it's largely Western fans will say WJSN isn't popular because they don't have high music video views. They don't promote in the West. They don't promote in Japan, so they must not be popular. But the reality is they don't promote there because they've never been promoted there. They've never had a Japanese debut. They've never been pushed into the Western market. They've never been utilized in anywhere except for really China by Starship, which I don't fault them because this was a plan to have this Korean Chinese girl group. So really, whatever, they're sticking to their plan, but a large portion of why Western fans think they're not popular is because they don't see them. So like when, and this is where I'm gonna say, I'm not hating on Changha because I love Changha. I really like Bicycle. You guys should listen to it if you haven't. Everyone will say, well, Changha is the most popular, like the most successful thing to come out of IOI, which yes, she's very, very popular. She's incredibly popular and I'm super happy for her. So Changha's last album, it says maxi single is what it was called. Maxi single. Oh no, that's a single album. So her last single album, maxi single, sold 12,000 copies. That's how many copies it sold. WJSN's Neverland album sold over 100,000 copies. So that's more than 4 times the amount that Changha has sold. So it's almost 4 times the amount of sales that WJSN have over Changha, yet Changha is incredibly successful and WJSN is barely noticed their failure. So like this is where I see the imbalance showing and what makes me really mad, because yes, Changha is so successful, but if you're basing what Changha does in terms of physicals and charts off of her being successful, WJSN does that exact same thing and has more physical sales. So why are they not successful, right? Why are we worried about the future of WJSN? That's really like all I have to say is like WJSN and their consistent growth and their transition from IOI and the way they so seamlessly integrated an IOI member into the group should be what every post-produced group strives to achieve. This should be the natural progression that everyone wants for post-produced groups. So when people say, I don't want any of the IZ*ONE girls to suffer in the same way that like WJSN has, it's like, why wouldn't you? Because WJSN are easily selling over 100,000 copies of their albums now. They chart high, they have brand reputation, they have recognition with the general public. They become a staple in some sense in the Korean society with their New Year's song. So it's like, why wouldn't every member is successful as an individual as well as a group? So why wouldn't you want that for other produced groups? Why wouldn't you want that for the groups that come out of IZ*ONE is my question. So I love IZ*ONE and Chaeyeon is one of my alt biases. And I would be so happy if WM's girl group was able to achieve this steady growth in the same way that WJSN is. I would be like, yes, I'm so happy, thank you. Also, WJSN just won their first Dongsang. It was at a Chinese awards show, but it's a Dongsang and it's more than what any other post-IOI member at all can say. So I think a large portion of why people, especially Western fans, say that WJSN isn't popular is because they've just never been promoted to them. WJSN has just never been a group that's been pushed towards the Western market, which I think is fine because they're thriving in Korea, they're thriving in China, they're thriving individually, they're thriving as a group. And if Starship could just get it together and just like promote them better, they're already a huge group. So if Starship could fix some of the issues I have with them, that would be awesome and they would be even more successful. So this was my TED Talk. This is one of the main things that makes me so mad because WJSN, if you didn't know, is an alt group of mine. And I just think that everyone should stop saying that WJSN has failed without looking into it, because how can you call a girl group who sells over 100,000 copies with one album that they're a failure? That makes no sense to me. So anyway, that was the video for today. I hope you guys learned a little something about WJSN. I don't know what I'm going to call this video. I don't know if I'm going to have to refilm it because my cats were making me incredibly frustrated during it. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye!